One final thing that I do kind of want to touch on, I think it'd be good to touch on, would be the obviously the England squad's been announced.
Yep.
With some questionable names in there, I think is fair to say. Some players that a lot of people have been shouting for a long time, but again, you see like Harry Maguire's in there again. Like, yeah, he's played some of the game at the weekend, but genuinely, what's he doing there? Calvin Phillips. When was the last time he played a game of football? I kind of get the Henderson thing because obviously, like he's got a lot of leadership, he's got a lot of experience, and it's not like he's been overplayed in the Saudi league for the last 3 years. Like he's just turned up there. Like he's not going to have dropped off at all. But like I say, on the flip side, it's good to see some other players. So like Tamori finally gets a call up. Maybe he'll get a game this time. That'd be nice to see. Mark Gay, he gets his call up. Lewis Dunk, Levi Colwill, like these are all players that a lot of people have been shouting for a long time because they're playing and they're playing well in good teams. And it's good to see like players like Ebreze and Eddie Nketiah getting a call up as well, because I think like Ebreze, he's just money. Like I love watching him play, and I think he'd be a fantastic option for England. But a big miss out for the. I only just realised when I was looking at the England squad before doing this was that Nick Pope's not been called up. Brought his Sam Johnston, who's Crystal Palace's backup keeper.
That is an odd one. I think, that is a. I mean, that is an odd one. I mean, it's third choice, so it's kind of like kind of whatever at this point. It doesn't really matter. Just a bit of breaking news, actually. I was just putting up the England squad just for reference. It's the Daily Mail, so whether you can believe it or not, but they have run a story saying that Gareth Southgate is set to leave after the Euros this summer.
Really?
So this could be, which I think was kind of expected anyway, that this was going to be Southgate's last tournament. So it does also go on to say that they could even try to lure Pep Guardiola, so it could well be bollocks.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I hate this time of year whenever an England squad gets announced, because I cannot be bothered with the hyperbole that comes with it. I think England fans are the most insufferable, whiny, entitled bunch of fucking like just over the top. Again, it's hyperbolic. Like, oh, everything's rubbish, but we also should win everything. We're really good. Like, make your mind up. What is it? Like, the squad's got issues, and I'll touch on the obvious ones, right? I don't think Harry Maguire should be in the squad. I've been a pretty staunch defender of Maguire being in the England squad over the last sort of 12 to 18 months. I thought he should have gone to Qatar, and I stand, and justifiably so. When he played, he was really good, I thought, in that World Cup for England. I don't think it was his fault that we went out. I think if John Stones was fit, Maguire doesn't get into this squad. I think he's very lucky that Stones isn't available, and I think Southgate has mentioned it enough that it's a problem that Maguire's not playing games. It's a problem that Calvin Phillips isn't playing games, and that needs to be rectified somehow. I don't think you'll see Maguire in the squad for the Euros if he's still at United coming into the season. I think the reason he's in there, he's got, in terms of senior defenders, and this is something that Southgate likes to do, he likes to try and keep a bit of continuity throughout his squads and almost treat it like a club team rather than a national team. And he wants to have like leaders in there and big sort of experienced players to help with the dressing room and help the new players that are coming through. And if you look at the England centre back options for this one, it's Levi Colwill, no caps, Lewis Dunk, like only recently started getting called up, Tamori, 4 caps total. 3 caps, sorry. Mark Gahey, he's got 4 caps. Like, I think having, I don't agree with it, but I can understand the logic of wanting someone like Maguire there who's been there and done it with England to sort of help bring that next crop through, if that makes sense. I don't think he should play in either of the games, but even if he does, it's like Ukraine and a friendly against Scotland. Like, who the fuck really cares? Like,
Scottish, they'll care.
Yeah, they will care. They will care. Like, and I'd rather see. I'd rather, if anything, I'd rather he didn't play against Ukraine, because I want the team that plays against Ukraine. I'd like to see be the closest resemblance to the team that is going to play in the Euros. Should we get there? Is how I see it. Well, I think we've already qualified. I'm pretty sure we have. The other games are friendly. I don't care that much. With Phillips, I've always said this about, and again, I get it. He doesn't play, and it's people like to bring this quote out from Southgate from like 2017 when he only said it so he could justify dropping Wayne Rooney about like, oh, we were going to pick players on form and all this sort of stuff. Unfortunately, England are in a position where if Declan Rice is not available, off the top of my head, I can't think there is just a natural number 6 that can come in and do the job of just sitting in front of the defence. Like, people have said Ward-Prowse, he's not a 6. Henderson is barely a 6. Gallagher, definitely not a 6. There just, unfortunately, isn't that player. And Southgate's quite lucky in a way that Rice is always available. Like, he's very rarely injured. And the likelihood is when we get to a tournament, he's going to play the majority of the games, apart from the one that if we win the opening 2 group games and the third game doesn't matter, then he'll bring Phillips in for rotational purposes. Like, that, I think, is fine. I think the squad overall is fine. And the majority of people who get annoyed by it are just annoyed because their player didn't get called up. And it's really boring. So that's my fault on the England squad.
Yeah. Well, like I said on the opener, like, I think it's good to see a lot of these players that people have been clamoring for to get chances being given chances. They are getting the calls up, and it's not. Yeah, like the Maguire one is the one that sticks out like a sore thumb.
Of course,
and Calvin Phillips as well. But like, for the most part, there's a lot of very good, talented young players out. Like James Maddison's finally back in the England squad as well. Like, it's great to see that because he's started the season like a house on fire.
Yeah.
And if they do go with like that kind of slightly double pivot of Rice and Bellingham in midfield, and with one of him or Phil Foden or whoever in front, I think that's a really good midfield, especially with the options they got up front.
Yeah.
And Harry Kane's a player still. I forgot about that. He's not in the Premier League. I forgot he existed. So when you got Rashford and Saka like kind of like they've started the season playing really well, especially Rashford off the left. Like he looks back to himself. Like he's got a bit of swagger, a bit of pomp, a bit of confidence about him. Like the little like kind of dribble flip flop down the touchline that he did the other day was like, oh, that's Rashford for 3 years ago. He's feeling himself there. So yeah,
Henderson's the only one that really sticks out. I get aside from Maguire, but again, I don't agree with it, but I can understand the reason for picking Maguire. I don't really see the need for Henderson to still be in the squad. I think really that's the one position, like that sort of, not the 6 necessarily, but that sort of central midfield where I don't think we're that light in. I think you could have brought in a James Ward-Prowse instead of Henderson.
I dare say that, like, come the end of the season, that will be the case. Though.
Yeah,
especially if he carries on playing like he has been, because he's been from what I've seen. Obviously, I've not watched as much as you, but like he's been brilliant. He's just really kind of fallen straight into that midfield role at West Ham, and looks like he's been there for years. And
the way England play, like we are somewhat reliant on set pieces under Southgate. Like, it is a big part of what we do, and I think having him as an option is like, I don't know, he doesn't get into my England starting 11, like my strongest England starting 11, but he's definitely a good option to have. Like, I've always said that about Ward-Prowse, and I think he is just unlucky that there's been other players who play in the same position who are just better footballers than him. But if you've got a specialist, it's a really handy weapon to have. Like, especially in tournaments where games, especially when you get to knockout games, right? They are usually quite tight and quite cagey, and that could only be the difference for England going into the Euros. But yeah, I think it's like I said, it's just my frustration is more with just everyone else, because I feel like it is the same reaction every single time when the squad gets announced. And even historically with Maguire, I've always understood it because he has always generally been really good for England. And like, you know,
it's kind of like the Pickford thing again, isn't it? I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't know. I mean, is there anyone you feel missed out that definitely should be in, or like? I'll
be honest. I don't really give an arse about England. Like, I'll watch tournaments. Like, I'm not really bothered about watching. You know, like if it's an interesting game, but like, so I'll probably watch the Ukraine game, and I'll watch the game against Scotland so I can take the piss out of the Scottish people in my Discord. But other than that, like, that's all it is for me. Like I kind of follow England at tournaments, but I'm not a big chest thumping England supporter. So.
No, you're not a gammon. So
yeah,
yeah. No, like, so I'm pretty much the same. Like the I really don't follow qualifiers that much because we always get a really easy group. So it's kind of like don't really need to watch because it's like it sounds arrogant and people are going to go, oh, typical arrogant English. It's like, well, no, it's not my fault. We always get drawn against San Marino every time there's a qualifying round. So it's like
that's the whole point. That's the pointlessness of qualifying, isn't it? Like
ultimately,
it's like ultimately. You know, it's like deciding that you're in the Champions League by beating a lot of teams from the, League Two.